Now, I know we should talk about rest homes, but I actually don't want to. Have you ever had that thought? Because when it comes to ageing parents, rest homes tend to sit in the too hard basket until suddenly they're not optional anymore. And by then, everyone's stressed, emotional, and making hard decisions under pressure. I'm Hannah McQueen, and this is The Next Bit.
And I'm Mark Leishman. So let's talk about the conversations most families avoid when it comes to rest homes, and why having them, those conversations, earlier actually gives everyone more control. So we're joined once again by Tracy Martin, Chief Executive of the Aged Care Association of New Zealand, someone who sees every day what happens when families are prepared and when they're not.
Let's cut to the chase. If we wanted to have a conversation with our parents about putting them into a rest home, or it's time for them to consider moving into a rest home, how do we go about having that conversation gently, or should it even be gently?
I think I'd start the other way around. So if my father passed away in 2011, and he gave me his power of attorney for his health and well-being. And he said to me, I've given it to you because I know that you will make the decision that when the family can no longer care for me, as in the weight of that caring, I don't want your mother to feel guilty about it. And I know your older sister will do everything she could do to keep me here. But I know that you, Tracy, will make a practical decision. And if I need to go into care, then you will place me in care. What a mature conversation that was. What a really selfless conversation that was by my father.
How long, can I ask, was that before he had to go into care?
He didn't go into care. We did actually manage. It was pushing right up against the edge of our abilities, but he actually died at home. But it was days away from me making that decision because it was becoming, watching him die was becoming very, very, very difficult for our family.
So he sounds like the poster boy for it.
Yeah.
But a lot of families wouldn't be like that. It's almost, you don't want to talk about it because it acknowledges that this isn't going the way that we want. It acknowledges an end.
Yeah.
Those are hard things to traverse even for the emotionally intelligent. So
no, and it is. I mean, it's all very well and good, I know, for me to sit here and sort of, I suppose, give that advice. The best time to start the conversation, I think, is when absolutely it's not needed in the slightest. So the best time is to have the conversation and sit down and say, okay, did you know that the average age of entry, mum, is 85 into a residential care facility? Did you know? You're 76, you're really fit and healthy, and so on and so forth. But what do you think? How do you think it should work if you have a fall and or you get dementia? How do you think it should work for us as a family? So I would start the conversation that way, and then that opens the door to saying, I'm not sure I can do it, Mum. I love you to bits, but I'm not sure I could do it. Because if, there's an awful lot of lifting and clinical care and personal care, and as much as in-home care may be there are large periods of time where they're not. They might visit every day, but they're not there all day. So
there can be different people coming every day.
That's right.
So no sort of relationship.
Yeah.
Do parents have, is there one fear that the parents have about entering a rest home? Is it something that puts people off the most?
Strangely enough, there's a piece of research being done on that. So there is a researcher, I'm trying to think what university she's from, but she's just got a grant, and she's going to be having conversations with seniors who've just entered residential care about how empowered they felt about that decision. So it'll be interesting to get that research back in about 18 months, because my assumption is an incident happened, nobody wanted to go into residential care. And the other piece of research that we have got, though, is that people, their fear was they were so vulnerable that things would happen to them and they wouldn't have anybody to stand up for them. And
So loss of advocacy.
Yeah, that
Or
sort of thing.
agency.
Yeah, loss of agency and just people being mean to them and them not being able to
Having no one there.
stop that from happening. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen across the world, in residential care, but I would have to say that the research that I've seen shows that the majority of individuals who come into residential care, they once they know what it's actually like, their lives are more improved. We know that their physical health improves more. They live longer when they're in residential care than they would if they hadn't come into residential care. And they form relationships, really positive relationships with staff. That doesn't negate those incidents. If we talk about 40,000 individuals in any given year here in New Zealand are in residential care, and we have, I think it's like, it's very low numbers of actual complaints to the Health and Disability Commissioner. Because we see those complaints on the front page of the paper, it feels like they're constant, and that builds on that fear factor,
Could you just we'll go back to basics. Just explain to us what is the difference between a rest home and a retirement
Sure.
village or
Right. So a retirement village is a lifestyle choice. You are active, you are, competent, you have made a decision that you're going to sell your house over here and buy in what is a gated community or, a village environment with like-minded people generally. And because of that, you can access the pool and the clubhouse and so on and so forth. Residential care is not a lifestyle choice. Generally, nobody chooses to go into residential care. There has been an incident, whether it be an acute incident like a fall, or there has been a progression of age for the individual, and that might be dementia or it might just be frailty, and they have been assessed as needing residential care, and that's how you enter residential care.
If a family's made peace with the fact that it's time to go into the rest home, so you're looking at the available rest homes, what if there isn't one close enough to you? That must be another kind of life change that you need to process pretty quickly as well.
That's right. Because I think there has been, it's changing at the moment, but there has been an assumption that if we need it, it'll be there.
Yes.
And it's just not the reality at the moment. And even in urban areas, having to go, across like from one side of Auckland to the other side of Auckland just to get a care bed at the level that is required. It can be, it can be a minefield. It's at a really difficult time for families. All I know is that the care facilities understand that, and that the first point of contact for them will be the manager of the care facility who will explain, try to take the details of, and do we have the appropriate levels of care. I know facilities that decline people, but they decline them because they say, we can't actually look after them as well as they need to be looked after, which counters this argument that they'll take anybody because they're all money grabbing, because that is part of what I've heard in the public conversation.
So in that scenario, what happens?
They will work to find, they will make suggestions about who else in this area, because it might be a level of care, and often it does have to do with dementia at the moment, that they're just not able to provide. They don't either have the security for it, or if there is a level of violence, they don't have that. They don't have the clinical staff that they need to manage that as well as it should be managed.
One of the things I've observed for myself and even with friends is our parents are aging. There's an awareness that they may need care at some point. I don't think I would be equipped to care for them. I don't think I'd be particularly good at doing that. And I'm always a believer that get the right person doing the right job. We should all play to our strengths. I carry a tremendous amount of guilt, though, in even just voicing that. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to front foot the conversation. I'm thinking, what a useless daughter I am. When they need me, I'm not there to wipe their bottom. And I'm like, damn straight, I'm not there. This is This is the reality.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guilt with this process. Have you had any observations around how families could navigate that well, better?
Yeah, it's very tricky, right? It's very tricky.
Not uncommon.
So no, it's not uncommon. And what I have seen is, so in personal experience, I've seen a family unit where mum doesn't want to go into care, and one of the daughters says, absolutely, Mum, you're never going to go into care. I'm going to look after you. And then it's been years. So it will be 2 to 3 years that this one daughter has carried the load of all of that care, and did it voluntarily. But it's 24/7. In a hospital care facility, we roster people around because we know the burden of having to the absolute weight of providing that level of care. And yet a family member, because they love that individual, takes it on 24/7. And it breaks families. I've seen it break families. I've seen siblings, the sibling that has said, I'm going to do this, then feel resentful to the others that wouldn't,
living away.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they have advice. Yes, exactly. And saying, well, Mum should go into care. Well, anyway, so I mean, I'm not that person either. And my mother, I don't think, my mother is 85. I'm very aware my mother's 85 because it's the average age of entry into care. But I don't think my mother would want me to look after her full-time either because I don't think she likes me that much.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean she doesn't love me. But, we haven't lived in each other's pockets for 40-something years. So how do we just have that conversation and for Mum and I to be honest with each other and say, you don't really want to be around me 24/7 either, do you, Mum? But there is a lovely care facility basically 1 block away from my house. Now, we can manage it until there's a room, and then I promise you, every single day I'll come down and see you, Mum. That's a conversation to have. I'm not going to leave you there, Mum.
Just with the siblings, and this is just with life and observation, there's always sort of a bit of a dud sibling, someone who doesn't quite hold their weight.
Yeah.
Often they have an opinion, but let's assume that they just don't pull their weight. How do you get them to lean in? So it's not just one of the siblings taking a disproportionate share of the load, or is that just that's just the family dynamic?
Just the family dynamic. I wouldn't have the faintest idea how you get them to lean in, to be perfectly honest. I wouldn't have the
It's the old out of sight, out of mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, and it's becoming more and more common. I mean, I've got 2 sons, one son that's now in Brisbane and another son's on his way to London. I mean, it's more and more common. They're not here. So if my daughter is the only one in the country, you know where it's going to fall. And that's a big deal on Rose, right?
Same situation.
Yeah.
And what about the other factor of the parent who just simply refuses to go?
Yeah. So again, I've seen, and that's what actually led to my husband and I having our conversation, where the husband knew he needed a very high level of care, but he absolutely refused to go into a care facility. My wife will look after me, right? And I think one of the things we do badly, and I'm sure there are people who'll say that I'm not correct, but this has been my experience. We ask the spouse in front of their husband, are you doing okay? Are you happy to care for them?
Right.
Now, what a burden to put on.
Yeah, no, he's a pill. Maybe you can't really say that.
No, well, you don't really want to say it in front of the person you've been married to for 60-something years. You still quite like them. I just don't necessarily feel that I'm capable of. It's not want. I think that's the other thing. If it's they've got a sore ankle and it's a number of days, I'm very kind to my husband. I'll bring him a cup of tea. But if we're talking 24/7 care for possibly 18 months, I don't think, and I'm older than he is, but otherwise spouses are the same age, you find it's the spouse doing the caring that finds themselves in hospital then.
Yeah.
It'd be right.
And if someone listening thinks, I don't want to have a crisis, I don't want this to happen, or what's the scenario? Get onto it early?
Definitely make a plan. I don't know how you could get onto the residential care part early because there's such a shortage, right? So, it's not quite like you can buy a plot for your burial and then you don't have to get in it for 10 to 15 years or something.
A timeshare in an aged care facility.
Well,
bit of a hack.
Yeah. But I think definitely find out what the process is. Get really clear on what the process is. Get really clear on what's available around you. There are some multitude of different options at the moment, and you don't have to go and visit or anything like that, but just know that they're there, so that if and when the situation arises, you're not starting from scratch. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. And you know the timelines and
Exactly. Yeah.
Tracy, thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing in the sector. Thank you for fighting for people to have access to the care when they need it, wherever they are.
Sure. Thank you for raising the issue. I appreciate it.
If there's one thing I hope you take from this, is that avoiding the conversation doesn't make the situation easier. It just makes it harder later. Now, you don't need the plan. You don't even need all the answers. You just need a starting point.
And if you want to hear more about this topic and the great work Tracy Martin does, then please check out our earlier episode, How Rest Homes Work in New Zealand and What Families Get Wrong. Once again, thanks so much for listening to The Next Bit.